The third host. Melding minds with the god of destruction had an effect on the Ancient almost as profound as the effect of its latest host's soul merging with it. It knew what the god of destruction had known, the life of a realm eater, and realized the god of destruction was not so different from it. As had been the case with the vortex creature, the realm eaters had been killed for simply trying to survive the only way they knew how. But this time the Ancient felt responsible. It had destroyed the entire species. It found itself questioning everything it knew about purpose and meaning. Though it experienced the lives of an entire realm of people in addition to the hosts, the life of this host had changed it in more profound ways than anything else. It had chosen this host because he was brave, understood love, and would do what needed to be done. All of those things were true, but had they made it any better? The questions raised in the Ancient echoed throughout the people of its realm, playing out in their lives, and from them it would learn. But it did not feel it had the time to wait for these answers before selecting a new host. If the end times were truly upon the realms, it would need to select a new host quickly, or all could be lost. It would also need to select a host whose soul and mind closely resembled its current thinking, if it wanted a quick and stable integration. It found such a man, caught in the midst of the conflict of the end times. Early in his life, he had been captured by the demonic forces and tortured, but had managed to escape and even overcome the trauma of what had happened to him. He sought the strength to put an end to the conflict, and the Ancient believed that made him the perfect choice. The Ancient was in a hurry to begin the integration. It did not wait until the moments before the man's death, as it had with the previous host, and did not dwell within the man since birth, as it had with the first. It approached the man just as he had begun questioning the meaning of life in a similar fashion to the Ancient. Appearing in his dreams, the Ancient showed him what he could be if he accepted the bargain. But the man was hesitant. Throughout the next few weeks, it began showing the man images of the lives of Dacheldor and Dacheldor II. This made the man scared. He feared he was being influenced by demonic forces. In an attempt to ease the worries of the man, the Ancient allowed him to experience all of what Dacheldor and Dacheldor II had experienced. This backfired horribly. The man attempted to sever his connection to the Ancient, believing he was being possessed, and sought the aid of others to this end. Though the Ancient attempted to back off, the experiences of the previous hosts had already been shared. They played out in the man's head, and he screamed in agony at his inability to keep his own personality separate from theirs. He was eventually admitted to a mental institution, where he spent years of his life drugged and scratching at the walls. The Ancient contemplated leaving the man to find another host, but the guilt of what had happened made it stay. It had taken this perfect specimen and inadvertently driven him insane. It chose to stay with him and work to bring him back to sanity. Slowly but surely, the man clawed his way back to control of his mind, and came to understand Dacheldor and Dacheldor II were some form of past selves. He came to see himself as the incarnation of both of them, as well as the Ancient self. Unlike past hosts, he did not differentiate his own past from the history of the others. He simply came to accept that he was them. In fact, he claimed to be the Ancient itself. This resulted in a stronger connection to the Ancient than any other host. Its interest in aiding him, and his eventual acceptance of it, bonded them so strongly he could sometimes hear the Ancient's thoughts as if they were his own. He could sometimes even sense the minds of the people in the Ancient's realm. He started to recall how to perform the abilities of Dacheldor and Dacheldor II, without even having fully accepted the fusion. Using them, he escaped the institution and made his way to an abandoned church, where he sat and entered a state of quiet meditation. It was then that the Ancient appeared to him again, offering the full merger of the self. He accepted. His body transformed, more closely resembling the original Dacheldor than Dacheldor II, but he decided to keep the name Dacheldor II. He was still not the original, being born to the name Dacheldor, and still was a host choosing to take that name. He did not see himself as some third type of being. To distinguish himself, when technicalities were needed, he referred to himself as Dacheldor II's second incarnation. He never listed his prior name or any specifics of the details of his life prior to the merger. To him, he was and always had been the Ancient incarnate. Exhaustion overtook him as the full abilities and powers of Dacheldor and Dacheldor II flowed through him. As he fell to the floor of the church, he readily believed this was all part of the integration with the Ancient within. He allowed sleep to overtake him, and darkness closed in around him. The darkest of dreams. Dacheldor awoke to the sound of a low growling. A creature from the Hell Realms was staring at him, ready to pounce. He quickly summoned the Demon Edge, and fought off the creature, but ended up outside as a result of the battle. There he discovered the city under attack by the demonic forces. He strode into combat, reclaiming his love of bloodshed. Many of the demonic forces fell before him. His movements were more eloquent and more devastating than any host before him. He did not hold back the insanity that sometimes had tugged at his mind. He utilized it as a partner. In the distance, he made out the form of Derek fighting to save a number of innocent civilians. The two fought back to back against the demonic forces, beating them back until they finally retreated. Then Derek informed Dacheldor of some horrible news. Shortly after the death of the original Dacheldor II, demonic forces had attacked the center. The entire place had been destroyed and nearly all of the Realm Lords had been killed, their souls absorbed. Dark One had been forced to use a secret spiritual technique to save those he could, but using it had cost him his life. Nicole had not been among the dead, but had been lost during the fighting and had not been seen since. Shakarok had felt responsible for it all, and had lost his will to fight. Doomsday, without Dacheldor to help her, had slipped back into depression. Derek had been alone in the fight against the Black Angel. His forces had even slaughtered the angels. Dacheldor could hardly believe Derek's story. He asked for Shakarok's location and went to see him immediately. When he arrived, he found Shakarok in an old cottage on the outskirts of the Prime Realm. He seemed to be sitting alone with his thoughts. Dacheldor grew closer, but stopped as he made out another person on the bench, Doomsday. He watched as the two embraced, kissing each other passionately. He could sense the thoughts of the two, and knew they were in love. Both had been there for each other when their need was the greatest. He fought back a strong desire to attack his former apprentice. He strode forward and announced himself. The two reacted as if they had been caught doing something they should not have. Dacheldor pushed down his emotions and told them he understood. He then asked them for the truth of what happened while he was gone. Their story matched Derek's, but with one major difference. They knew what had happened to Nicole. She had not disappeared. She had joined the demonic forces. Dacheldor shook his head, but he could read in their thoughts they were telling the truth. He asked if they would come with him to get her back and face the demonic forces, but they refused. They were too scared to fight anymore. Returning to where he had left Derek, Dacheldor hoped he would still be there. When he arrived, he found Derek again in battle with the demonic forces, this time led by Nicole. Before he could get involved, he saw Nicole skewer Derek with a longsword through the heart. Then he saw several demons draw out and eat Derek's soul. Dacheldor screamed and fired a blast of electricity at Nicole, but he read a thought on her mind moments before it hit her. She was glad he would free her from this life. The demonic forces had removed her immortality. Nicole fell dead. The blast had completely destroyed her body. The demons around her drew out and ate her soul. Dacheldor murdered them violently, but could do nothing to return what they had taken. He tried desperately to revive his children, but was helpless. He cried in the rain as his mind slipped into the deepest darkness. It was then that the Black Angel appeared to him. He whispered offers in his ears of powers beyond the laws of nature, of ways to revive even the soulless and to grant them souls again. All he would have to do is join the Black Angel. For a moment, Dacheldor considered it. Had he been a former host, the desire to put things right would have outweighed his judgment. Instead, he chose to accept what had happened. As bleak as things were, as horrible as this nightmare was, he was still in control of himself. He stood up to the Black Angel and renounced him. He claimed even if it cost him everything, he would never bend knee to the likes of him. He announced himself as an ancient in the flesh. When compared to demons, a god. The Black Angel was furious. He struck at Dacheldor, but Dacheldor deflected and sliced through the Black Angel's arms. They grew back, but the Black Angel backed away. His mind seemed to shout, "How do you have so much control in this place?" Dacheldor stopped and looked around. The world around him was starting to come apart, as if it was an illusion. He looked back at the Black Angel, who was now in even greater shock. He delved into his mind, and found that the Black Angel had created all of this as a realistic nightmare to fool Dacheldor. He was actually still asleep on the floor of the old church. "How could you break through this?" The Black Angel was dumbfounded. Dacheldor closed his eyes and said, "Wake up!" The truth revealed. Dacheldor woke to find himself in darkness. Reaching out with his mind, he detected a creature in the corner of the church sending psionic waves into his brain. Summoning the demon edge, he strode to it and cleaved it in two. As it passed into death, he ate its soul and learned all it had known. It had been an agent of the Black Angel and, as Dacheldor had suspected, it had fabricated the nightmare he had just experienced, passing the mind of the Black Angel directly through it. Now, with its soul absorbed, Dacheldor was immune to such future attempts. It took Dacheldor a while to feel sure he was in the real world, but a few subtle things proved it to him. His emotions were more controlled. His connection to the energies around him was stronger. He could feel the will of the ancient within. He could hear the whispers of the minds of the beings in the ancient's realm. This sort of trick had only worked on him because he was not used to being the host of an ancient yet. Once he felt sure this reality was true, he exited the church to find the city not under any form of attack. He breathed a sigh of relief, then opened a portal to the Prime Realm. As he emerged, the center came into view. It was still standing, though it had obviously seen a few battles, and he detected numerous souls within, realm lords still very alive and well. He flew over to it, but was unable to enter. An energy shield was now pulsing around it. The center had obviously received a few upgrades. A single individual from the surface detected Dacheldor and flew up to meet him immediately. It was Shakarok, whose link to the Ancient within Dacheldor made him always able to detect his presence. He opened a way through the shield and let Dacheldor in, then embraced his former master. Dacheldor immediately noticed Shakarok was again wearing the insignia of a squad leader. Far from the Shakarok in his dream, the real Shakarok had stood bravely against scores of demons and become one of the strongest defenders of the center. As he brought Dacheldor to the others, he informed him of what had gone on in his absence. After the death of the original Dacheldor II, the demonic force had struck the center. It would have been devastating if not for the angels' aid. They had arrived from the heavens, putting their support behind the center, and even had brought new technology to guard against future attack. When the battle ended, the angels remained in the center, and it was now the primary base of operations for both the Realm Lords and angels. The leadership and bravery of Shakarok and Nicole during the battle had earned them each a team. Doomsday had proven herself so controlled and calculated in her leadership in the battle that Michael Titan had named her second in command of the center. Dark One had been reassigned as personal guard for Darkfire and the other headmasters, who had started work on spiritual techniques specific for dispatching demonic energy. Derek was reunited with the angelic beings that had once worked alongside him and led them to victory in the battle. Since then, the Realm Lords and Angels had been on the offensive. They were dispatched as multiple teams, all on the same mission, saving one realm at a time from demonic influence. Derek and the angelic beings formed their own team and became the most impactful of all the teams involved. Through their efforts, the war was currently at a standstill. The demonic forces continued to invade, but for every realm they entered, they were driven out of another. As Shakarok and Dacheldor entered the doors of the center's main command room, they were met with thunderous cheers. Shakarok had to explain to Dacheldor, "They all viewed you as a martyr. You're a hero back from the dead to them." Dacheldor felt conflicted by this, as he saw his actions as nothing worthy of such praise, but he entered and announced his return anyway. Derek, Nicole, and Dark One, as well as all of Dacheldor's past subordinates, were ecstatic to see him. They embraced him and immediately wanted to spend time with him, but were interrupted by an announcement from command. Michael Titan wanted to see Dacheldor in his office. Dacheldor entered to find Michael and Doomsday were the only ones there to see him. Doomsday simply nodded, but he could read her thoughts that she was happy to see him back. She was far more apprehensive than the others, not sure if he would be the same man, but happy nonetheless. Still, she did not show her emotions for Michael to see. Michael shook Dacheldor's hand and asked him if he wanted to join the center again. Dacheldor agreed. Then Michael laid out his exact thoughts on the situation. While everyone else at the center saw Dacheldor as a hero, Michael saw him as a man who had disobeyed orders, risked his team, and foolishly got himself killed. He informed Dacheldor that he would reinstate him, but if he gave him any reason at any time to exile him, he would do it without hesitation. Dacheldor understood and accepted the terms. That night, Dacheldor spent time in the company of the team he had formerly called the Family. He was overjoyed at how well things had actually gone for them. He was happy they had, for the most part, accepted him back. He decided not to go into detail about how different from the previous host he felt as an individual. That would reveal itself in time.